celebrating 2 years of marriage on Saturday? Sunday. I'm in trouble for that later. But anyway, she's going to kind of talk to you guys for a little bit and just share her story. You guys have heard my story, obviously growing up, involving myself in the things that I involved myself into. She plays a very different role in growing up in her family. She plays more of an outside perspective, so I'll let you kind of pick it up from there, and yeah, thank you.
Alright, guys. I remember what it was like to be a freshman. I didn't like it very much. I felt kind of like an outcast, to be honest. You know, new school. I just got used to middle school. And they throw me into a big place with big jocks, and it was just not what I wanted. Alright, so, like Landon said, I'm just going to be telling my perspective on how it was growing up for me. Landon was the one who did drugs in his story. In my story, I'm the person who grew up around it. My family members did drugs. My mother did drugs. So I'm just gonna start from the beginning, just give a little insight on what it was like even being born. So here we go. Growing up in Rockford. Do you guys know Rockford? Yep. Okay, so this picture is a picture of me and my mom. I was about 2 years old in this photo, so my mom was about 21. I was born in 2000. My mother was 19 when she had me, so she was still a teenager, kind of becoming a young adult, you know? Was born, we were poor. You know, there wasn't a lot that we had. We were on welfare, basically all the way up until I was 18, I was on welfare. We had assistant living, like where they would help us pay our rent or the bills. It was hard, you know, and being put in a situation like that, you know, there's not a lot you can do but try to make it better, right? And I'm not saying that being poor is bad, because honestly, it's not. Just because somebody has more money than you doesn't mean that they are better than you. You know, so kids get bullied for not having as much nicer clothes as others, and I think that's just ridiculous. Because at least they have clothes on. At least you have clothes on. We can all be naked. You know, so be Adam and Eve up in here. You know, at least we got clothes. So I don't really see being poor, me growing up poor, as a bad thing, but it didn't help the situation. Because of being poor, you know, there's certain places where the poor live. And in Rockford, you know, it's called the projects. It's all the west side. The west side of Rockford is the projects. That is all that it is called. The schools on that side are bad. It's all gang related. The houses are infested with roaches. You know, there's a lot of gang violence and gun violence, you know, so that's part of the area that I grew up in. My adopted parents actually still live on the west side, and I hate it there. I hate it. I hardly go over there. So growing up in Rockford, you know, it was scary. Being poor was scary. Going outside was scary for me. And then also, there were like things like that started to become normal that were not normal. Like I said, I grew up around drug addicts. Both of my grandparents were alcoholics and died from it in their 50s. That's very young. The average person lives to be at least 75, between 78, I think. If I'm not mistaken, it might be higher now. But they died in their 50s. Very young. So, I mean, things that started to become normal was ducking down in the house when there was gunshots. I didn't say this to the other You know how like when you get up on stage, there's some things that you forget? There's a lot of things to explain up here, and I don't have enough time to say all of it. So some of the things that I've said to you, probably some of the other people haven't heard. Just like the last group heard some things that you guys probably won't hear, and I'm sorry for that. But there's just a lot in such little time. Like ducking when gunshots were coming through the house, or my house getting broken into and somebody stealing my snake. I had a huge white and yellow snake named Al. When I was about 5 years old, somebody just broke in and stole him. Like nothing. You know, so things were normal like that. Having rats in my house was normal. Watching people do drugs was normal. Drug dealers coming to the house for money was normal. People stealing, my own family stealing from me, a child, was normal. And my mother let it all happen. When I was about 10 years old, my mom lost her job. She had a very nice job. She worked for a shelter called Shelter Care Ministries that is located in Rockford, and it helped people on the streets get homes. They also did big donations every year and would put furniture in people's houses. They did parades. They had car washes to raise money. It was an amazing job, and she got fired. We got evicted. I was in 5th grade. It was about to be summer, so I was going to be going to 6th grade soon. We had to sell everything in our house, everything. We had 2 days to get out. So we decided to have a garage sale and sell everything. Everything that we did not sell went into a dumpster because we did not have a storage. We couldn't afford a storage unit, so we had no reason to keep anything. When I first started 6th grade, I was living in a motel. The motel was called the Howard Johnson. It is out by the Rockford Airport. It is infested with roaches. There are, excuse my language, crackheads there. Me, my mom, and my little brother were living there. We lived there for 2 months before we got housing. Becoming a teenager. Does anybody know who that is? That is me. Yeah? How's it look? Do I look the same? Yeah? I look the same? What? God. Anyways. No, I have highlights now, okay? My hair is healthy. Okay, becoming a teenager. When I started becoming a teenager, it was very hard for me to figure out who I wanted to be. Cut my hair. I dyed it. I got piercings. And I wore black. That's all I wore. I was so hot all the time, I have no reason why I did it. Actually, I do. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of some crowd. I wanted people to notice me. I was not getting the attention that I needed at home from my mother. At this point, in this photo, I think I was about 14, maybe 13. It was either 7th or 8th grade. So I started to feel like I needed to belong somewhere. My mother at home wasn't giving me attention. All she wanted to do was sleep. She didn't want to take care of me. She didn't want to help me with anything. I decided at school that I would just change my appearance. Maybe people will talk to me. Maybe somebody will notice that something is wrong. I'm not going to come out and say it. I want somebody to come up to me and ask me if I'm okay. Nobody did. Trying to find me. That goes back to me saying I was trying to find a place for me. I was trying to find me. I was trying to find out who I was going to be as I got older. And in that moment, right then and there, I needed to dye my hair. I needed to put a hole in my face. I needed to only wear one solid color. I needed somebody to see me. I needed somebody to notice that not everything was okay. And nobody did. I still went home to the same thing every day. Didn't have meals. Didn't have any food. Didn't have clean clothes. Nobody packed me a lunch. I couldn't even eat lunch at school because I was not enrolled in the program that they have for public schools where you get like a free lunch. I had to pay for mine. I didn't have any money to pay for lunch. I hardly ate. You know, and nobody noticed. They didn't. So my story continued on. By the time I hit high school, so I'm 22 now. So I would have graduated in 2018, 19, I don't even know what year. I lost track. I've been to 8 high schools. Dropped out 8 times. I still don't have a diploma. But I'm getting my GED, which I'm very proud of myself for. You know, I messed up in school. That was on me. But I have a reason for it. And it might not be a reason that anybody wants to take. They might just say it's an excuse. But I was the parent at home. At this point, I had 2 younger brothers. One that was 7 years younger than me and one that was 13 and a half years younger than me. They were both boys, Anthony and Jay. My mother could hardly get out of bed. How was she going to take care of 2 young children? I made sure my brother got up for school. I fed him breakfast, I got him dressed, and I got him on the bus. Jay, he needed a bottle in the morning. He needed his diaper changed, and I had to make sure that my mom was going to be okay the rest of the day to take care of him while I went to school. It was just better to stay home. Eventually, I stayed home too many days, and that letter came in the mail. Dropped. There was one school, I was about maybe 16. I don't even know how old I was. Have you guys ever heard of Huntley, Illinois? Huntley? It's about maybe 30 to 45 minutes away from Chicago. It's a suburban neighborhood, like place, like a suburban town. I had moved, I don't even know how old I was, but for some reason I had went there, and we lived there for a little bit, and I registered for school out there. I think I was a sophomore. I really don't know. Anyways, registered for school there. I went to school one day. Now, this you guys can laugh at if you think it's a funny excuse. I do. The reason I stopped going was because the school inside was too confusing for me. I could not figure out where my classes were. And I did not want to go anymore. I have horrible anxiety. As you can see, I have an emotional support dog. Okay? I can't really do anything. It's horrible. At 15, I left home. I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents. Both of my brothers, Anthony was taken by the state first, and then I left home. It wasn't until a couple months later that Jay was taken by the state too. They were both placed with family members, which was really good. I was also in foster care. I don't know if I mentioned that. Like I said, there's some things that are just going to be left out. I was also in foster care when I was a kid for about a year. Wasn't great. We'll just leave it at that. So I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents. His parents knew. So me and Paul had been dating for about 3 years at this point. I had a boyfriend, but it wasn't like a boyfriend. We were just friends. He was like one of my best friends in the whole world. He was the only person that I could really talk to, even though he was an a-hole. His parents understood. They knew where I was coming from. They knew the person that my mom was. They knew that I needed a place to live. They let me come live with them. They made sure that I had dinner, lunch, breakfast. They made sure that my clothes were washed. They made sure that I showered and that I was going to school. Even though they couldn't force me to go to school, I would just skip. It just wasn't. I told you there's excuses after excuses of why I didn't go to school most of the time. But it was a luxury. I had somebody who cared about me. I had food. I had a shower. I had clean clothes. It was awesome. When I was 16, I got my first job at McDonald's. At this point, I was so happy. I didn't have to deal with any of my family members anymore. The only time my mother called me was for money. So I didn't really have to deal with her. If I just said I didn't have any, then I didn't have any. Sometimes I'd give her like $2. But that's not what I'm saying, because I knew that what she was gonna spend it on. I didn't want to be a part of it. If you needed a cigarette, I'd get you 50 cents for a cigarette, even though singles are illegal. But you know, leaving home was probably the best decision that I made for myself, even though I missed my mom. So, from the time I was born, my dad was an absentee parent. I met him when I was 15 years old, and since then, it's about been the same since I was born. We don't talk. He knows that I have kids, he knows that I'm married, but he don't care. And I don't care. I don't want to talk to him. I don't care. So, like I said before, my mom grew up rough. You know, so history was going to repeat itself. Why wouldn't it repeat itself if nobody taught her how to be a parent or to how to do the right thing? So, my mom wasn't a mom. She was a friend most of the time, but she was a friend that didn't care. So I guess you could say both of my parents were absentee. She was in bed all the time. Hardly saw her, unless I was changing her puke bucket. You know, so where were they? Not there. Sorry guys, I hate technology. There we go. Finding a way out. I knew after I moved out and I moved in with my boyfriend, it took me a couple of years to actually figure out like what kind of goals I wanted in life. But I knew that I did not want to follow down the same path that my mom did, nor her parents. I did not want any of that for me or the future that I was going to have. I knew that I needed to make my own future. So I decided I'm gonna go back to school. It was my junior year. I was about to turn 17. I was doing good. The year started off a little rough, I was still getting back into the whole, I had to go to school every day. I went to a credit recovery school. It was 3 hours a day on a computer. They had like actual lessons and I needed them for math because I was horrible in math. So I would go and take the lessons, but it was only 3 hours a day. I went from 9, the bus picked me up at 9:30. I got there by 10:15 and then I left around almost 3, maybe not 3, 10, 11, 12. Oh, sorry, around like almost 2. So I think it was like 1:52 school ended. It was something like that. It was only 3 hours a day. My 17th birthday came. That was fun. Neither of my parents showed up. I had a nice birthday cake that my friend got me. It was nice. It was fun. I had some friends over at my boyfriend's house. Saw my mom a couple days later. Didn't really know who she was. She wasn't my mom. She looked weird. She looked different. She was foreign to me. She got me some perfume for my birthday. Coach. You guys know what Coach perfume is? It's a brand that a lot of people buy. For those who don't know. 2 weeks after my birthday, I get a call from my uncle. He calls me while I'm at school, and he asks me if he can come pick me up early. My uncle is my mother's brother. His name's Chester. He was involved a lot with growing up with me. Kind of looked to him as a father figure until he started doing drugs. But anyways, picks me up, get in his car. I'm in the back seat, and he turns around and he says, Princess. Princess is a name that everybody has used since I was born. It was the first child born, first grandchild, all that stuff. He says, Princess, I gotta tell you something. And I knew. I knew exactly what he was gonna tell me. I didn't need to think twice. I started screaming my brains out. I broke his back door window with my feet. I couldn't breathe. I needed to get out of the car, but I couldn't. And so I broke the window. He just told me to stop. It's okay. But it wasn't. It wasn't okay. I just lost my mother. You know how shocking that was? Even though she wasn't the best mom in the world, I still loved my mom. It still came from her. She was still my mother. It took a long time to deal with. It's been 5 years. I'm still not over it. I never will be. There's no such thing as being over something like that, right? That's what I ask myself all the time. I'm justified in this sadness. I'm justified in this depression state that I can't stop thinking about. It was 7 months after my mother died. I had moved in with my aunt and uncle who had adopted me. I know it was kind of late in life, but I'm theirs. And I love them very much, and I wouldn't choose anybody else to be my parents. But they didn't notice me slowly slipping away. I would come home from school, go downstairs and drink, and just go to sleep until dinner time. I'd come up for dinner time, not say a word, just eat and go back downstairs into my hole. I did this for months. I didn't want to be alive. I thought, what was the point? Nobody was really here for me. I've had such a crappy life. What is the point of this? I knew that I needed help. I went to my mom. I told her that I needed to talk to someone. I couldn't talk to her, and nobody noticed. I tried to pretend like everything was okay. Nobody noticed. I told her about the drinking. She was surprised. I had bottles hidden in my room. Even though I shared a room with my sister, she still didn't know. My adopted sister, just to clarify. I have 2 brothers, 2 blood brothers. Nobody knew because I hid it, because I didn't want anybody to know. I didn't want anybody to know what was going on in my head. 7 months after my mother has died, I finally get help. I mentally was not okay, and I knew it. And I knew if I continued to let myself stay in that depressive, manic state, that I was most likely going to turn out the same way she did. Because my mother had issues. My mother never dealt with the things that had happened to her in her life, and for that, she chose to do drugs to help ease her pain. I saw myself going down the same road with alcohol. I did not want to be that. Counseling helped a lot. I'm still in counseling. I've been going to counseling for 5 years. I will tell you that it does get better. Things can get better, but you really have to work on it. I'm going to tell you that I still have bad days. Some days are worse than others, but I'm okay. Counseling really helped, writing helped, reading helped. There were a lot of outlets that I could actually talk and feel like a weight was lifted off my shoulders without saying anything to anybody. Just releasing all of those thoughts inside my head was amazing. They weren't even heard. I knew that it was time to make a change in my life. I knew that I did not want to go down the same path that my mother did, so I chose differently. I knew that when I had kids and when I grew up, that they were not going to have to go through the same thing that I did, nor my mother when she was growing up. I knew that I wanted to be a hard worker. I wanted to have nice things. I bought a 2019 brand new car when I was 20 years old. It was a year old. I had an apartment. I had a 2-bedroom apartment that I was paying for. I had a full-time job. I had everything that I wanted because I made that happen, because I chose to do that. Okay. Trying to make a different life for my kids. I got married when I was 20. Had my first child at 20. I was going to say 21. Had my second child at 21. My girls are 15 months apart. They're considered Irish twins. They are the most rambunctious gremlin cutest babies I have ever met. Especially BB. She's the older one. She's about to be 2 in July. Olivia is 5 months old. She's about to be 6 months old on the 2nd. I was scared to have kids. I will tell you that. I was scared, but I knew that I was always going to be a mom. I knew, I didn't think about having kids, but I knew that one day I did want them. I just wanted it to be the right time. I wanted to make sure that I was financially, mentally, and physically stable to have them. But children don't come when you have them. Children come when they want to come. Things happen. And I knew that I was going to be okay. Like I said, was terrified. I didn't want to be the same mom that my mother was. I didn't want my kids to grow up feeling like they never had anybody, or that I wasn't there for them because I couldn't handle my own mental illnesses. I didn't want my kids to feel lost in this world. And for that, I am grateful for myself. I pushed myself through all that darkness, and I got the help that I needed so I could be here for them. That's all that matters to me. I think you guys should just stay seated, right? I'm sorry, this one's going a little bit longer. I've been trying to, like I said, so much time. Okay, and all I really want to say is, you guys can choose your own paths. You don't have to, somebody else does not choose your life. You choose your life. I chose a path, you choose a path. It's all up to you. Your life is in your hands. It is not in anybody else's. If you feel like you need help, get it. Help is there. Help is there. There is always somebody there to help. And I understand, like I said, nobody noticed. It's because I didn't speak up. How is somebody supposed to notice something is wrong when you make sure nothing looks like it's wrong? That's what I did. Ask for the help. Like I said, I've been in counseling 5 years. Some days are still very hard. It's not just going to go away overnight. It takes time. You have to work through it with yourself. You need to get inside your own mind and find out what is the root cause. What is there that I can do to better myself? How can I make this day better for me? We'll worry about tomorrow when it comes. You worry about you today and what you can do to make your day better or yourself better today. Just take these words of advice, like I said, you choose your own path. You don't have to be anything you don't want to be, and you can be whoever you want at the same time. It's all up to you. It's all in your hands. Thank you, guys.